Hello, and welcome back to Rocking Chair Society. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've had a marvelous week. It's been chilly here the last couple of days. I'm in Florida. This is Wednesday, December the 22nd, 2021. Yeah, it's still 2021. The last couple of days, we've had to turn the thermostat from AC over to heat. So the heat's been coming on a little bit, followed by several days of fairly warm weather. So that's Florida for you. Have you done your Christmas shopping yet? I recommend that you do not go into debt buying Christmas gifts. Remember the days when, those of us who are old enough to remember such days, remember the days when major gifts were held off until Christmas Day? Things like a vacuum cleaner, a mixer, maybe a rod and reel, things along that line. I think those days are gone. I think these days, if we want something, we go out and get it, regardless of whether it's Christmas or June or July, any time of the year. That seems to be the way that the world has turned up. And with the internet and easy transportation, those long gone days of Christmas gifts, the major things, that's gone. You may remember that I told you I was planning on selling my car. I have a 2015 Nissan Altima, pretty darn good car, great gas economy. I hate car payments, and not really knowing what we can expect as far as the economy is concerned in 2022, I was thinking it might be nice to get rid of that car payment. Well, Carvana dragged their feet and really didn't get back with me. That gave me extra time to think about what is out there. What is out there that I would be able to afford with the equity I would get from selling my Nissan. The cars would be very iffy, and many of them had very poor gas economy. With my current car, I know what I've got, and knock wood, it's very dependable. So I pretty well decided I'm not going to sell my car, at least at this moment. That's what I'm telling myself. Speaking of 2022, you may want to be frugal if you aren't already. Watch your purchases. Maybe not buy a car unless you really need to, especially a new one. So, anyway, what if we get to reading chapter 5 of Coming Through Hard Times? Okay? Spring 1927. This is a continuance of the life, early childhood of my mother, Olivia, and her mother, a young woman, Susie. They're living with the Grahams, the older Grahams, in rural Mississippi. Although it's still early in the morning, Mrs. Graham has been in the kitchen for a couple of hours already. As she opens the oven door of the wood stove, a flash of hot air flies up to confront her face. She quickly closes her eyes to battle the heat that's assaulting her, but recovers with squinted eyes and is soon able to see the biscuits are almost ready. After closing the oven door, she turns her attention to a large black skillet on the stove top. She takes a shallow bowl from the table and, with the wood-handled black fork, lifts each piece of bacon from the iron skillet to the bowl. She's careful not to let any of the hot drippings fall onto her wrist or onto the wood plank floor. She places the bacon bowl on the table, grabs a folded kitchen rag, and removes the biscuits from the oven. Susie and little Olivia come in through the squeaking door, their feet gently massaging the plank floor as they get closer to Mrs. Graham. Mrs. Graham looks over at Olivia and says, "There's my pretty white-headed girl. Your hair is about as white as mine." "Oh, Miss Graham, it's so nice and warm in here," says Susie as she bristles off the chill from the hall. "Livy, wait a little while. I'll wash my hands, then I can help you get up in your chair." Susie walks over to the little wood table, to the water bucket and washpan. As she dips out water from the bucket, Mrs. Graham lifts the water kettle from the stove top and warns, "Watch out, Susie. Here's some hot water for the pan. You don't need to have froze hands when you handle Miss Livy over there." "Thank you, ma'am. You're a good grandmother." She washes her hands and gazes out the nearby glass window. Susie goes to one of the two pie safes, unlatches it, allowing both doors to swing open. She pulls out a mishmash of different plates, some chipped and cracked and all from different times, even some of Mrs. Graham's mother's plates. There's a little plate she pulls out for Olivia. Susie transfers them to different spots around the table covered with a well-worn oilcloth that once was bright with pictures of colorful fruit and a checkered background. She pulls out the wood drawer of the pie safe, takes out the forks and a few knives. Some are blackened metal with wood handles. Some are white metal without wood handles. One knife is for Mr. Graham to cut through the butter and maybe the meat if he needs it. She places a specific fork inside each plate depending on who it belongs to. Mrs. Graham flips out the tall, plump biscuits onto the plate and carries it on to the table, close to where Mr. Graham will be sitting. There's another black skillet on the side of the stove, which she lifts and slides into the hot oven. She calls out to the house, "Y'all come on. Biscuits and bacon is ready, and I done put the dog bread on. Y'all come on and wash up and eat." Susie lifts Olivia into her special chair, a chair that places her high enough to see her plate at the table. Olivia's wide eyes scan the steaming biscuits on the table near Pawpaw's chair. She knows to expect a baby biscuit her grandmother has been making just for her. At the other end of the table, Susie lifts the wide-mouthed gallon jug of milk and pours milk into 4 goblets. In a little snuff glass, she pours milk. "Looky here, Livy, here's your milk. You want your milk, don't you?" Olivia's eyes dance between the hot biscuits, the little glass of milk, and the jar of syrup. Mr. Graham and Alney pile in through the noisy door. The 2 men line up at the wash basin. Mr. Graham uses the water and soap left by Susie, turns to the side and dries his hands on a rag hanging from a nail on the wall. After Alney washes his hands, he opens the window and throws the water out. As is often the case, the chickens run over to the newly wet ground, looking for anything of substance. Alney returns the wash basin to the little table, dries his hands, then finds his place at the table. He steps his long, skinny legs, one at a time, over the bench and sits down. On the other side of the table, Susie finds her seat on the bench, next to Olivia's chair. Mr. Graham is already in his straight back chair at the end of the table. Mrs. Graham places the final plate of food on the table, bends her knees, positioning herself over the end of the bench, and sits, all in their usual places. Mr. Graham asks, "Where's Talmadge?" Susie takes a deep breath before finally answering, "He didn't come back home last night, Mr. Graham. I don't know where he got off to." Mr. Graham continues, "I just don't know about that boy. He needs to be here helping out. Susie, pass me the syrup. Here, pass them biscuits around." Susie places food onto Olivia's little plate, then her own, but finds herself hesitating before attempting to eat anything. Her brother-in-law, Alney, speaks up. "Susie, you going to eat something?" "In a little bit," she replies, as she tries to stifle a wave of nausea. "In a little bit." Everyone has eaten and left the table except for Mrs. Graham, Olivia, and Susie. As they were washing, drying, and putting away the breakfast dishes, Mrs. Graham speaks up. "Susie, you sure have gone down so small. You done lost all that weight from having Olivia. You need to watch out. You know, if you ain't nursing, you're going to catch another baby." "Yes, ma'am," says Susie. "I know." Mrs. Graham continues, "You know, Talmadge is a hard worker, but he still disappears sometimes, going God knows where, and don't come home like he should. And when he do, he's usually drunk and done spent all his money. I don't know if having another baby is going to change him. You mark my words, Susie." With the breakfast kitchen chores done, Susie takes Olivia's hand and they walk back to their room. She puts on her white sweater, slides out the slop jar from under the bed, and says to Olivia, "You be a good girl and you stay right here until I get back. I'll be right back." Susie carries the slop jar down the hall, through the back door, down the several steps, out to the ditch where she empties the slop jar. She gags and throws up. After straightening back up and catching her breath, she remembers this happened when she was in the family way with Olivia. Oh, there are other signs too. Susie whispers out softly to the open air, maybe to God, "I wonder if this one will be the boy Talmadge has been hoping for. Maybe he'll do better and stay home if this one's a son. Maybe." That was chapter 5, Coming Through Hard Times. I'm anxious to hear what you think about this story. I'm anxious to know if you want to continue hearing more of Coming Through Hard Times. If not, then maybe you would prefer to hear about some stories of some amazing people, very ordinary seeming people that have had some extraordinary things happen in their life, things that they really didn't give themselves enough credit for. They walk amongst us, you know. Mm-hmm. My advice to you, once again, is don't go into debt buying Christmas gifts. Be very mindful of your spending. We really don't know what the year 2022 is going to bring. In the meantime, keep on rocking. Be nice to people. This can be a very difficult time for some people. So be nice, be considerate. Reach out to your friends, your relatives. Say hello and Merry Christmas. and maybe have a cup of coffee and some dessert with them, if not a meal. So, once again, keep rocking and join me again.